Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast. I am your host, Anna Rising, and on this podcast, we discuss soul contracts, past lives, Akashic records, karma, and all of the spiritual girly stuff. On today's episode, we are going to be looking into the love and compatibility chart of two celebrities. And it's not just any two celebrities. These two celebrities have been engaged before, broke it off, didn't get married, but then after a few years decided to reignite their relationship, got married, and are now going through it. Sorry, they already got a divorce. They got a divorce in early 2025. And those two celebrities are Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of heat coming on JLO for the documentary she did on her life and how ridiculous it was. So I feel like people feel a certain way about her since then. So I was very quick to jump on looking into her chart because I really wanted to see what is underneath all of the glitz and glamour that is JLO. And her soul contract did not disappoint. I definitely sensed that she's very performative. There were definitely some red flags there. This is a person of extremes. This is a very passionate person, somebody that does not do little. This is a person that goes big or goes home. So she has very high demands of herself. This is somebody that's very ambitious, very strict. And I am telling you guys all of this in order for you guys to get a sense of what this kind of person that's very type A would be like in a relationship, specifically the relationship that she had with Ben Affleck. So for the love and compatibility charts that I offer them on my website, thesoulecosystem.com, and on my Etsy shop, The Soul Ecosystem. They give a lot of insight into the details of relationships, what ultimately could lead to a breakup, what stressors are put on a couple in this relationship, and what kind of negative karma turns on if they get off path and need a bit of a recalibration to get back into the purpose of the relationship. Now, when it comes to love and compatibility readings, they are based off of the date of birth of your partner and you. And when those numbers are combined, they can let you know if this is kind of a soulmate contract, if this is a karmic contract, if this is more of a platonic or romantic kind of like soul family contract in this incarnation. But thus far, the majority of the love and compatibility charts that I see are soulmate ones and karmic relationship ones. And this one is a very karmic relationship. So let's start to dive in to their love and compatibility chart because it is very, very telling of what their relationship was like and what ultimately led to its end. So the overall theme of Ben Affleck's and Jennifer Lopez's mutual chart, their karmic purpose, the purpose that they were brought together, was one of personal growth, lessons in love, and responsibility. Now, throughout this chart, I've noticed that there is something about Jennifer Lopez that knows how to reach Ben Affleck in regards to vices. So I've seen pictures of Ben Affleck like smoking, and I vaguely remember seeing something about alcoholism, and then when I looked it up, I realized that it was one of the reasons that Jennifer Garner and him split up. And it seems that the way that JLo and Ben were paired is specifically to help him through needing to go to these vices. That is a key element of their relationship, helping Ben navigate his addiction. So when it comes to karmic contracts versus soulmate contracts, karmic contracts are built for growth, not for eternal harmony. And Jennifer Lopez was definitely kind of this instigator of growth for Ben. I'm not sure if it was in a positive or a negative way, but there was connotations in their chart that she helps him navigate his addictions. And I think that JLo, based off of her chart and based off of how she was coming up in this compatibility chart, I think that JLo runs a really tight ship. She is very extreme and she has very strict rules for herself and for others, and I can definitely see how that can play into her and Ben's relationship, especially when it comes to him needing to not resort to alcohol. So right off the bat, Jennifer Lopez has a very masculine energy, and this kind of leaves little to no room for Ben Affleck's energy to come into play here in the relationship. So him as masculine, he may have little to no say in the relationship. It's almost the type of relationship where somebody pretends like the person has an option, like gives them a choice, but it's kind of like the choice that you would give a toddler. It's almost as if like she's giving him an illusion of choice. And at a certain point, like he's like, okay, I realize that I don't actually have any part to play in this relationship. So he kind of shuts down. We see him go into a very non-decisive, irresponsible, almost infantile role. And I'm not surprised by that at all. If you guys see like all of the pictures that the media has ever taken of them post marriage, Ben Affleck looks like he is not having a good time. He looks like he is just being dragged around. It looks like JLo is having the time of her life, and he looks like he wants to be anywhere but there. He looks miserable. And there's this look of resentment on him. It's almost like she's forcing him to attend these events and he's not here for it. So those energies are coming into play. And the purpose of the relationship isn't that. The purpose of the relationship is to experience a loving, healthy relationship. And the imbalance starts to happen when they are misaligned. But the numerology for their chart, for the purpose of their relationship, is to bring an example of a beautiful, close, and loving relationship. And that is seen in the number 21. The second number that they have for their purpose is the number 15, and 15 symbolizes that a couple needs to work on their vices and weaknesses through self-control and awareness. And it says that in such a partnership, the couple gives themselves really big goals that they want to achieve and tries to achieve them together. Now, the problem starts to come in when they experience misalignment. This may cause the masculine to close himself off, become selfish, and be no longer invested in the relationship. And certain stressors start coming into play when that happens. When one person is kind of like checking out, they still consider themselves in the relationship, but they're very much checking out, is that the other partner has to kind of keep up the work. They are now burdened with all of the responsibility, all of the emotional labor, all of the mental labor of the relationship. And it's like they're keeping up appearances as if they are still a couple when the communication has been severed, the connection and the intimacy has been severed. And that very quickly starts to spiral. It feels like JLo overshadows him. It feels like she is so used to being such a big personality that unless the other person is as big of a personality as her, or as talkative and kind of in your face as she is, they are not going to be seen. So there's some lessons there for JLo in order to make her partner not feel left out of the relationship, to not forget to include him, and leave room for his opinions, leave room for his quirks and his personality, and not let her image and her personality take up all the space. So when that doesn't happen, when it's primarily focused on one person in a relationship, you are going into misalignment. And the whole purpose of this contract that their souls drafted before this incarnation was to set an example of a beautiful, respectful, harmonious relationship, but to also work with each other through certain vices. And when that doesn't happen, negative karma starts to come into play. And by negative karma, I don't mean that it is negative per se. We might perceive it as negative. It might feel negative to us because it feels like a lot of things, negative feelings are floating up to the surface. A lot of negative things are happening. It might feel uncomfortable. But all of these situations are intentionally triggered by our higher selves in order to recalibrate our relationship and to get it back on path. Does this mean that every couple needs to stay together or get back together? No, you cannot single-handedly recalibrate your relationship. Every person has free will, and if a person doesn't want to work on themselves, if a person doesn't want to contribute to the relationship and take responsibility for their part in it, then it's not going to be possible to realign. So I'm not at all saying that you guys are supposed to stay in soulmate relationships or karmic relationships just because they're karmic or soulmate, because everybody has free will. And if a relationship gets toxic, gets super negative, you have to know when it is time to fold. So when you cannot recalibrate the relationship, when you cannot get back on path, the contract is then severed and it is going to be reevaluated once this incarnation is over and before you incarnate into the next. So in JLO's and Ben's karmic contract, the negative karma that starts to present itself when they get off path, when they are no longer showing up as a loving, healthy relationship, and when they're no longer working on their addictions and vices. And JLo may very well also have addictions and vices that she goes to. They can be various things. It doesn't just have to be like hardcore substances or alcohol. It's very likely that's why they were paired together, because they have this tendency to resort to vices instead of doing the hard work, doing the shadow work, feeling the feelings, getting therapy. It may be why they were brought together to work on this and mirror that in each other. Maybe if Ben didn't see how his alcoholism affected his loved ones and his family and his marriage to Jennifer Gardner, maybe now when it's kind of mirrored back to him in JLo, he can see it and he has that epiphany moment where he's like, oh my goodness, this absolutely sucks. It sucks to be with a partner that has an addictive personality, that has addictions and kind of prioritizes that over the relationship. But back to how this starts to unfold, how the relationship starts to kind of dissolve. The negative karma kicks in and the relationship becomes superficial, no communication, lack of intimacy. This leads to compensating with expensive gifts or meeting up with your friends very often so that you guys don't have to be sitting together and not communicating. Their chart also alludes to infidelity as being one of the reasons that they may break up. In addition to feelings of discontentment, their chart specifically talks about one of the partners wishing that they were in a more compatible relationship, that they were in a relationship with somebody that was better suited for them, because it really starts to feel like they are not meant to be together. And it can also lead to depression. And I found this particularly interesting, the fact that they were engaged before. They started dating in 2002, got engaged, broke it off because of all of the media coverage and the pressure from the media. I'm not sure what was going on in the media for them at that time. And there was a significant period of time that passed before they reconnected, got engaged, and got married. It's like they really needed to play out the contract. They really needed to try and learn the lessons that they were meant to learn in this relationship before they could proceed to other relationships. So this relationship definitely could have went the long term if they were really committed to making it work and doing the inner work on themselves. But it was not an ideal alliance. It came with a lot of difficulties on both of their parts, and it would have required a lot of sacrifice that I don't know that either of them were prepared to make in order to make it work. I'm sure we all would have loved if they stayed together because that's the perfect romance. They got engaged, broke up, and then reconnected after all this time, and it would have been nice if they stayed married. This is just a lesson that not all relationships are meant to last, but they all serve a purpose. And I hope that coming out of it, both JLo and Ben could have resolved some of their issues, maybe picked up on the patterns that were happening for them in regards to resorting to vices, resorting to external and material things to give them joy and peace instead of seeking it internally. So, very interesting. I had looked up who Ben Affleck is dating now because I wanted to see if that was a soulmate connection, if that was a soulmate relationship. And then I saw that him and Jennifer Garner are getting close again. And I was like, okay, this would be really interesting if they were actually a soulmate connection, if she was kind of the one that got away, and maybe after kind of doing mirror work with Jennifer Lopez, Ben Affleck could have realized that he fumbled and gotten back together with Jennifer Garner. But then I looked at their contract and I wanted to share what that was like because you can see Ben Affleck's energy in it immediately because it's very much the same way that he acted in his relationship with Jennifer Lopez, except it feels like Jennifer Lopez had a tighter grip, like held Ben Affleck on a tighter leash almost and kind of kept him in line. So yeah, I was really crossing my fingers for Jennifer Garner because she always said positive things about him. I saw her speaking on Ben Affleck, and it seemed like there was so much love there, and it was unfortunate that they couldn't work it out. But then I looked at their compatibility chart, and it was also a karmic one. They had two primary numbers in their contracts, 5 and 12, that tell me that they were brought together specifically to create a family together, to have children together, to build a home and build that family throughout their relationship. But it is not an ideal alliance at all. This is not an ideal partnership. This is two people that are very, very different. Jennifer Garner has some codependency energy in this relationship. It feels like she has to mother him because, again, the irresponsibility is coming in on the masculine side, and she's taking on the brunt of the work in the relationship. And to him, it feels suffocating because she starts building this resentment because she's doing all of the work, she's raising the family, and it feels like he kind of comes and goes as he pleases. He doesn't necessarily take into account how difficult it is for Jennifer Garner to kind of be playing both roles in the family. But it definitely seems like he's battling some of his demons out with the alcoholism that he started inhibiting. And I'm not sure when this started, and I'm not saying that Jennifer Garner was a precursor to it or a cause of it at all, but there is the energy of the vices again in this chart. And I'm pretty sure that it is coming from Ben Affleck. So, in the beginning, this might have seemed like the perfect couple. They both had the same goals, the same dreams. They wanted to create a family together. They were very intentional about that. So, it may have started off very warm, inviting, full of communication. Jennifer Garner has the energy of this very homebody person. She knows how to make a house feel like a home. It was something she was passionate about. And at the beginning of the relationship, they were bonding over this. They were having clear communication. They were both making each other feel seen and heard, going so far as to always playing host and hostess, inviting people over their house, and never turning anybody away, always helping other people that are in need. So, a very wholesome, loving, warm environment. I think that Jennifer Garner's energy here really rubs off on Ben Affleck. I feel like he really wanted that vibe. But the second number that is in their love and compatibility chart is the number 12, and that is of massive transformation. This relationship wasn't just about love. This relationship was about fundamentally changing each other's lives. They did that because they built a family together. They have children together. They drastically changed the course of both of their lives. However, their personalities are polar opposites, which really caused a lot of friction in between them. Jennifer Garner's energy feels a lot more passive, and I can see why that might have been more challenging for her to deal with Ben Affleck's alcoholism. Their relationship got to this point where they were both so scared to offend each other. They may have both tiptoed around each other's feelings. There was lack of communication in a big way because they stopped being honest with each other. They started kind of hiding their feelings, hiding their thoughts and opinions, especially with Jennifer Garner. I feel like she had a lot of disapproval of Ben Affleck and how he was handling things. And it feels like she was not in a place where she was able to voice that. So, although their personalities are very different, these differences that initially caused attraction initially were like a puzzle piece. They fit together very well. It caused a lot of tension over time. So, the signs that were coming up for them that they started to get in misalignment was that lack of communication, the tiptoeing, hiding their true feelings for each other, and not being honest. There was a lot of misunderstandings that started to take place. And one partner may have felt suffocated by the other partner being very structured, very in a routine. And you can't really be in a routine when you're in the grips of addiction. You kind of are at the mercy of the addiction, of the drinking problem. So I can see how Jennifer Garner's attempts at creating that stability, at creating that structure and routine may have further tensed the relationship between her and Ben Affleck. So in addition to the stressor of Ben Affleck's alcoholism, there is also a likely chance that there was some infidelity at play. And I think it's very telling that there was also infidelity was also listed in his and JLO's contract. So I think this is a person that isn't very grounded. I think Ben Affleck is somebody that's pretty impulsive and kind of goes to the beat of his own drum, even if it doesn't make sense in the long run. It's interesting to me, despite of possible infidelity, despite the emotional disconnection, the lack of communication, all of the tension that is put on the relationship, the strain, the underlying energy is one of love, albeit maybe codependent love. It's like a savior pattern. It's like one person in the relationship is waiting for somebody to save them. It really feels like Jennifer Garner felt like she needed to save him. She needed to fix him. And Ben Affleck really relied on her for emotional support. And no matter how much emotional support she offered, it was never enough because the underlying issue wasn't with her, it was with him. And she wasn't able to fix him. She wasn't able to change him. So the energy here felt very self sacrificial. It felt like one party was giving way too much of their energy into the relationship and was not getting anything in return, and it took a toll. And it led to a lot of frustration and exhaustion on Jennifer Garner's part. So even though the separation seemed very necessary, they were kind of like really deeply attached. And that made it very difficult to move on, especially with the fact that they have children together. So in regards to this type of karmic relationship, could it have been saved? Could they have stayed together? And the short answer is they could have, if they both let go of control and stopped trying to change each other. And if they both committed to the process of transformation together, because that was one of the key reasons why they agreed to have a contract together, have a karmic contract in order to transform. And it is very hard to transform on your own, much less kind of drag another person along the journey with you. So a love built on transformation requires that both partners evolve together, or else the karmic cycle will repeat until that lesson is learned. So that's what I had for the Ben Affleck and the Jennifer Garner love and compatibility chart. It was really interesting to see Ben Affleck's energy in both of the relationships and how it manifested in combination of Jennifer Garner's relationship with him and Jennifer Lopez's relationship with him. But yes, so although both of these relationships were karmic, if they really wanted to make it work, they could have. It would have been more so challenging, but the purpose of the relationship with Jennifer Garner was to create a family and to do a lot of transformation, self-reflection. And the purpose in the relationship with JLO was to have a very respectful, loving, beautiful relationship and to work on weaknesses in regards to vices and self-control. So if you see those same patterns in your own relationship where, like Jennifer Garner, you may feel like it is your job to save somebody, it is your job to stick it out with somebody and save them or fix them, because without you, they would just self-destruct. Pay really close attention to if the person wants to be saved. Pay close attention to whether he wants to change, because it's possible to stay in that kind of relationship. It's possible to work through an addiction with somebody, work through various traumas with somebody, if they want to do the inner work, if they want to confront the part of themselves that is resorting to vices instead of the actual issue at hand. If you find yourself in that kind of relationship, I would highly advise that you do not sacrifice yourself, you do not lose yourself trying to help somebody else get their feet on the ground, because chances are they're going to drag you down with them. I think I recently saw a video that immediately comes to mind when I say this, about how much easier it is to drag somebody down than it is to lift somebody out of a situation. And you should remember that. You should remember that imagery specifically when it comes to these kind of relationships where one person is drowning and they are trying to grab onto anything in order to get themselves out. And you have to be really careful that they don't drag you into their mess with them. And that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. If you were interested in getting your own love and compatibility chart, I highly recommend, even if it's not for a current partner, if it's a past partner and you want to see the dynamics that were happening and the energy that was happening in that relationship and what it was meant to teach you, it's extremely eye-opening, to say the least. So if you were interested in that, you can go to my website at thesoulecosystem.com, or you can visit my Etsy shop at The Soul Ecosystem, or just shoot me a DM on my Instagram at The Soul Ecosystem, and I can send you a link. Thanks again for listening. Thank you for all the support, and have a wonderful weekend.